Welcome back to Booked Up. This is Jen Taub, and today I am speaking with my friend Lauren Hough. The last time I spoke with Lauren was in person. She happened to be driving through Northampton, Massachusetts, where I live, in the spring of 2021, right after we had all been vaccinated. She was visiting because her book, Leaving Isn't the Hardest Thing, a collection of essays that make up a memoir of her life, had just come out. And what was amazing about her visit at that time is that we barely knew each other. We had only met on Twitter. And she was going through that kind of excitement and anxiety and fear that any first-time writer faces when their book is just about to premiere. When she was visiting, my teenager, who still happens to have a few stuffed animals laying around, saw that Lauren looked like she was about to cry and brought a very cute stuffed lamb known as Lammy to Lauren, who hugged it. And so today when I spoke with Lauren, I brought out the Lammy and showed her on the video, which brought back some good memories. What her book is about is her young life, most of which was spent in a cult called Children of God, which was started by, as most cults are, a charismatic leader, David Berg, in the 1970s, first attracting hippies from California, and then growing into what was supposed to be an organization that kind of lived off the land and worshiped Christ, but ultimately became an abusive sex cult that also exploited the children in it. Lauren was born in Germany to parents who were in the cult. Her parents got out when she was 6.5, and she was free from the cult until she was 9 years old, when she lived with her grandmother in Texas. Though she went back into the cult, went to Japan from ages 9 to 15, and traveled with that cult. She finally did get out. But it was her grandmother mainly who taught her about the world, who gave her books, who continued to mail books and communicate with her while she was trapped in this terrible organization that gave Lauren a sense that she could be somebody, that she could be a writer, and that there was a world beyond. So glad to have you with us. Let's dive right in. Hi. Do you see where the books are supposed to be? Damn it, what am I doing here? Okay, can you see? I've got to see if you can see where the books are. Like I always put someone's book up there. Do you see what's there instead of your book? Can you see? It's Lammy.
No. You do?
Lammy. Here we go. There's Lammy. I know that Lammy's is looking a little worse for wear, but my kid wanted you to see Lammy today, so.
That's very sweet.
Yeah, but I do have your book, of course.
Yeah.
So how have you been?
I've been really good. I just sold a fucking book, which feels great.
So tell me about the new book. I'm so excited.
Of course, people show up to your thing.
Why?
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 I don't know. I can only speak for me. Like, if they're doing your podcast is going to be fun and easy because we're just going to talk. Like, it's not something everybody wants to do your fucking podcast.
Okay. But anyway, I don't mean to cut you off. Tell me about, you sold the books. Same, is it the same press or?
Yeah, same publisher.
Okay.
So I got the same team, and it's going to be.
That's Vintage? Is that who it is?
Yeah. The short version is I'm ripping off Steinbeck and doing travels with Charlie, but with my dog. I just want to do it a little different. Yeah.
I'm embarrassed to say that although I've read Of Mice and Men, and I did see the movie starring James Dean, The East of Eden movie, which was incredible, I have not read the book or novella you're talking about.
Oh, you don't have to.
I won't. I'll read yours instead.
How much shit talking can I get away with Steinbeck? First of all, he made it all up. So I think
What?
I think Steinbeck owed someone a book and was like, you know what, I'll drive around with my fucking dog. We could do that.
Go back to you know what? I've got to stop being so self-centered, Lauren. We're supposed to be just talking, but let me go back to your dog book. So you think Steinbeck just bullshitted someone, said he drove around with his dog and didn't?
Well, no, he did drive around with his dog. So the book is him alone with his dog in this camper. He was staying in resorts in Chicago with his wife for a good part of the time. Then he hung out in his hometown for a couple weeks. He drives to Amarillo. Parts of it are true. He drives to Amarillo. His dog's sick, so he dumps his dog off at a vet and goes to parties at a ranch for Thanksgiving.
Wait, what? He drops his dog at a vet? So he doesn't even take his dog? Was the dog sick or was it just a...
No, the dog was sick. So it seemed like a bladder infection. I don't remember. Then he drives to New Orleans and then he drives home. And in between, he talks to a few people. He made all of the people up. These people did not exist. And they don't exist.
Was this billed as fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction, but it's mostly it's probably half. He was John Steinbeck. He couldn't just have a normal conversation with someone, I don't think, by that point. So I think he kind of had to make some of it up because what interactions is he going to have to put in a book? But and also I just he's used to writing fiction, so he did a little bit. But
so what year was this? Did this book come out?
I feel like it was 1960. Don't quote me on that.
Oh wow, he was really but he was super old by then, right? I mean,
yeah, he was
I'm
old.
guessing.
He had heart disease. He was going downhill, so he drove around with his dog.
So you said, "Hey." That's how you pitched your book, though? You literally said, this is my comp. It sold well. Can I make the same book? Yeah. Is that kind of how you did it?
Yeah, I was like, I have a van, which I just bought. And I told them, I was like, I just bought a van. I have a cool dog. I've been doing these stories for Texas highways where I drive to Marfa or Shamrock, Texas. And it turns out I don't know, I miss getting out of my car and talking to people. And I had just driven to DC with Woody, and on the way back, I got so tired of just being on the fucking highway, staring at nothing. My dog's miserable. I started getting out and going to national parks, and we'd hike around and have conversations. And this, it could be a good book.
I would read it.
Staring at our computer screens, and I stopped looking at Twitter. You don't even see me there anymore. I don't.
The best thing for my life was that Elon started acting like a raving lunatic on Twitter because it meant that I didn't feel obligated to do the stuff I used to do. Whenever there was an important congressional hearing, I'm like, I'm going to get on there and spend 8 hours of my life or whatever it is, 5 hours live tweeting it because I felt, helps people and there's all those endorphins that come from it. And now it's just misery. So I use it for what I need to, but it's freed me up. I'm reading, I'm writing, I'm walking around. It's nice.
I've finished novels. I've just read.
Wow.
Books. I've spent
Give me a book
on a couch just reading a book and doing nothing else. Going out walking my dog, back finishing the book. Shitty novels. I read a Jack Reacher book. They're not shitty. Listen, there's a place for Whataburger in our lives, and there's a place for that cool steakhouse with the tweezers and stuff. There's room for both, and I'm reading Whataburger. To get back into reading, and it's been fun. And
now we can, right? When I was a young kid, I don't know about you, but I had this dream of just sitting around reading books all day. And my friend went to this really experimental school called Roper or something. I'm in Michigan, and it was an experimental school. And my mom, I said, can I go there instead of where I go? My mom was like, and by the way, my parents sent me to private school, but it was more like classical, like you had to do all the things, you know. And so this place, I said, can I go there? It sounds amazing. You know, you get to sit around and read books and you don't have to do anything else. And she's like, no, you need to do math and you need to do all these other things. So, you know, and I guess in the end, it's good to be well-educated and well-rounded. But at the end of the day, I feel like I'm going back to my childhood now to what I really want because I can. You know, that's just sitting on the couch reading. That's why I made this podcast, so I could do that.
Yeah. I mean, they were full of shit. How often have you used the math?
I use it all the fucking time to help my kid with their math or math homework. My kids love math, though. I've had my older kid who's 22, like majored in, neuroscience and astrophysics. But that's what they do. I don't really help them with it. I think it's a rebellion because I read so much. They just want to do something with numbers. I don't know. So she did. Anyway, so I want to ask you, though, getting to your work. So you're writing this new book and you're going to go around with Woody. And is it, in your mind, is it just going to fall into place as like a series of vignettes, or is it are you going to a certain number of states, or what's your thing? Do you think?
It's all going to go to shit for several times in between, and hopefully it's funny or at least interesting. I was going to do it in the winter, and then I realized John Krakauer already did the book about a moron freezing to death in a van.
And you don't want to do that. I love that book. I mean, the thing about his book is, did you not like it?
No,
Into the Wild?
I loved it.
It's like, I don't know what it is about his books. Is it that sort of morbid side of us that you keep flipping the page to see who is going to die and when? Or is it more than that makes his work good? Or the foolishness and the hubris? Or what draws us to that, do you think?
I think it's partially the hubris. I think it's also the people he writes about. I mean, of course, they're going to be somewhat exceptional in some way because he's writing about them. But
right.
He paints such a complete picture of human beings that I don't really find in many other books. Everyone is just a detailed character study of this person. So
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I can still, as you mentioned, I can visualize that. Was it an old abandoned bus or something that he was in? And, you know, and that whole, what did they say, that he died of like some kind of rabbit syndrome where every effort he made to get food just depleted more calories than he was bringing in. I mean, the whole thing. And he meant well. I mean, getting off the grid, I get it. But anyway, let's talk about your work. So there's so many things I could say about what makes your work so good, but that would embarrass you. I don't want to do that. There's this thing though. I remember when I started, I think I discovered you on the Twitter, and when I got, and I knew I wanted to read your book because of course everyone in the world, and including me, had read The Cable Guy. But when I bought Leaving Isn't the Hardest Thing, I started reading it, and I was like, literally, I don't know, what do I want to say, like, one page in, I put it, and I grabbed Michael, you've met, my husband, and I said, you've got to listen to this. This is so fucking good. So can I read just this one bit to you and have you tell me whether it's like where this comes from or whatever? Or like,
yeah,
you're squinting at me. Okay, so I'm in the first, is it a chapter or the first essay called Solitaire? And this is like the third paragraph in, when you're talking about a sheriff approaching you as your car is smoldering in the driveway. Someone has obviously, it's been a kind of domestic terrorist attack on you, is the best thing I can say without giving too much away. So this is the next paragraph. And you say, I was sitting on the steps drying my hair with a towel. Didn't take much to dry it. I chopped off most of my hair that summer when the South Carolina air hit 100 degrees with 100% humidity. And walking outside was like opening a dishwasher mid-cycle and climbing in. I fucking love that, because you just took it to that next step. Like anyone could say, you know, anyone knows the feeling of opening up a dishwasher and it's steaming your glasses, but climbing right in. And so I guess I wonder, do you walk around the world and think about those things, and do you write those observations down somewhere? I mean, I know I have a really hectic writing. I'm not going to talk about my writing process, but when you're writing and you're thinking, remembering something, does that come to you, or do you have this whole list somewhere of things that come to you that you're going to use later, like something so beautiful like that? What's your process?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. See, I knew. A little embarrassment.
But no, I think it's a little bit of both. I'm a complete nerd and keep a list of random things about
I
people.
thought so. I fucking knew it.
Like, I have one, and someone's going to steal it because I'm going to say it out loud. But one is like, he looks like a guy who practices shaking hands.
That's so good.
Fun. I think it's fun if you give someone, instead of describing he had blue eyes and a square nose and a round jaw, if you just give them something and then let them fill in the picture themselves, I think they come up with a better picture. They can see it better because they know
Yes,
that.
Of course.
They know the guy who practices shaking, you know that guy. Everyone does. So, or walks like a little teapot was one I did in the Cable Guy essay. It's just, yeah, I think it's funny. I think it's easier. It's also more terrifying if you're writing something horrifying or traumatic or anything like that. If it's the Hitchcock thing where the bloody hand on the curtain, you fill in the rest of it. You don't need to actually see the gore. What your brain will come up with is so much worse.
That's why I love reading so much more than film.
Yeah.
I mean, some film can accomplish that, right? Make important stuff happen off screen and give you that, and that can be terrifying. But not all, or interesting, but not all film can do that. They're too explicit sometimes with what's being communicated.
Yeah, I think so. I like a little bit of subtlety, but it can be funny or fun.
But your characters, I find, like, even though that might be seem, how do I put it? I think what you're describing about what you like, that what's missing in modern or contemporary writing is really well developed characters. You were talking about Krakauer. Your characters are really real, as expression goes, warts and all, and you show and not tell. I'm using the cliches here, but just to describe it. But that, and you're also, because this is a memoir, sort of, maybe you admit at the beginning that, these are your memories and maybe people remember things differently. But these are people who, whether you use their names or not, are going to recognize themselves.
Yeah.
And I respect writers. And so I respect everyone's powers of observation. And I would be fine if you wrote weird shit about me, not my kids. But I wonder if your friends or your acquaintances in this book have been upset about how they're portrayed, or your family members, because this leads us into, leaving isn't the hardest thing. It's about you leaving that cult, Children of God, and you write. Some of your family members at the time you were writing it were kind of still in it. Anyway, there's a question in here somewhere. If you can find it, please answer it.
Yeah, well, we have all left years ago, but they're out of the cult now. I think what I tried to do is just tell my own story. I wasn't going to tell my mother's. I wasn't going to tell any of my siblings' stories. Their experiences are theirs, and it's not my place. So if it was something like they were there and I'm talking about them, I didn't want to expose anybody in my family. And I tried to give everybody just enough deniability. The funny part is the names I didn't have to change were any of the gay men in the book.
Like the guy Jay, I love him. That's his real name?
Yeah, that's his real name. He's Jay. He still lives in DC. I went to his wedding this summer.
Wow.
Yeah, he's just mad that I didn't include more of his whoring.
I mean, how could there be so much of it when you guys were like sharing a studio apartment, walk up and
Jay is
crazy.
really pretty friendly guy. He's a gay man who lived in South Carolina most of his life. Walking into DC was
Kid in a candy shop.
Yeah, pretty much.
See, there I go with the cliches. So yeah, this is why I don't do fiction or narrative. God, he's such a great character. The people that in the bars, the bouncers, and how about the ex-girlfriends and stuff? There were some nasty ones. They don't mind?
I don't know. I think I'm fortunate. Maybe I didn't date many people who read books. I don't even know that they're working. I've heard nothing, which is great. One ex I didn't write really much about. I did a book event at her place in DC, the As You Are bar. She opened a queer bar in DC, so
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but as far as I know, she's the only one who's read it. Yeah, I have no idea.
Wait, weren't you telling me though someone you had as a roommate? Maybe they weren't in the book, but someone who might have been a roommate near or on the base in Texas was like trying to extort money out of you by mentioning some video he took of you eating a Frito chip?
He sent it to my agent, and my agent will still randomly mention that every time I drop something on the floor and eat it, I think of you. Like, thanks, Steve. Yeah, he sent it to my agent. I think he wanted money. I don't know what he wanted. He just popped out of the woodwork and started sending the weirdest shit to my agents. And if you release her book, I will release this videotape. He tagged TMZ in a tweet about it. TMZ doesn't know who the fuck I am. They don't care.
I mean, can you imagine if that blew up? It would only be good. I don't understand.
No, I just put it on Twitter. So good luck.
So, I'm trying to say this in a way without sort of re-traumatizing you. But right before, like when you happened to be driving through, I think you were signing books, and I'm like, hey, I saw on Twitter that you were going to be headed through Western Mass, and I'm like, come visit me. That was right in the window. Like maybe it was right when the book came out. I just feel like it was right. It was April of 2021. It was right like in that like the part when we all got our vaccines and we thought maybe COVID was almost over. Yeah. And this was, I think you'd gotten into a spat with these trolls on Goodreads. And am I re-traumatizing you by bringing this up?
No.
Sorry.
No. We're okay.
So, but this leads to what I want to, that there's this way that, here you are, New York Times bestseller, incredible writer, but you're still you, the same you that walked around the world through all of your experiences. And whereas there's something about exposing yourself, you would think, to a really honest piece of writing that exposes your life, it's kind of a black comedy, very accessible, but it's still what happened to you is really real. And the idea that somehow people then kind of hold you at a distance, almost a pedestal, but then therefore attack you. I'm trying to say this in the right way, but it's like like that, someone said, when people say nasty things about your writing, of course you're going to respond and say something. And then suddenly it's like, you're punching down. And it doesn't really feel like when you get your first book published, I'm sure that you're punching down. You're kind of like scared out of, anyone would be afraid about the reviews or, anyway. And so I'm thinking about the way that happened to you. And then it became, somewhat of an issue, but big deal. It kind of passed. But then you've been a really good defender, I think, of other writers when the kind of Twitter swarm or when the attacks would come and people think, well, it's okay to swarm, tens, hundreds of people attacking a writer without even reading their work. And I think it's really brave of you to step in, even though that means that you become a target for all kinds of name calling. I think you know what I'm talking about. Do you want to talk about what that's like to be a writer who's, supposedly famous and now independently wealthy billionaire? And then people... I'm kidding. But the perception people have is like this little modicum of recognition, and now they can stamp on you and your
Yeah,
friends.
I don't even know that it has to be someone I mean, the check mark doesn't fucking help. Really think people thought that came with cash. But
Well, you're not getting the Soros money yet, or what?
no, unfortunately. I missed a meeting. I don't know.
Yeah, none of us are. I don't even have a space laser, Lauren. I'm waiting.
Damn it. That's why I was hanging out with you. I thought you had a whole plan. For good reasons. Yeah, I don't know. It was the night before my book came out, and I was fucking terrified. Like, that book was going out into the world, and it's about, growing up in a fucking sex cult. So not really shit I've ever even talked about. To friends. I had friends who found out because of the book. And so yeah, I was terrified. I said something about, and the problem with Twitter is, for a long time there, you talk really only to your friends, only to your mutuals. Most of the time you tweet something and it's only your mutuals who see it. It's only those who interact. And it can lull you into this, we're all friends here. It's during the pandemic too, so people were being a little more personal and vulnerable on Twitter itself, or on social media probably. And as soon as it goes outside your normal group, it can go bad. Whatever it is. I fed my dog cheese and got called a domestic terrorist. You never fucking know.
I mean, yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, but the problem is that there are a lot of people who seem to confuse bullying and harassment with some sort of activism. Like, they think they're doing.
That's such a good point. Yeah.
Part of that mob. They think they're being activists and really doing something, and all they're doing is torturing someone. Who said a stupid thing?
Mm-hmm. Besides leaving that environment, or what can we do about that, do you think?
I don't really know. I think, yeah, I don't really know. I think just being aware of it helps. You see a mob, don't join in, offer support, or can stick up for somebody. But I know what that turns into when you do it. There are people who sticked up with me who still, their Goodreads ratings started getting tanked. Sticked up for me. I'm a professional writer. But yeah, it's
stuck up for you. What's the right way?
No idea. I don't know. But yeah, it hurts. You want to pretend it doesn't hurt. The mob moves on with you, do. So the thing you're supposed to do is ignore it. But we're people. And I'm the fucking worst about it. So my instinct.
What do you mean when you say you're the worst? What you mean? You don't
just to fight. I have a really hard time not fighting. I know.
You know why that is, though, right?
Back to being a kid. Like, I wasn't allowed to speak. So yeah, the whole thing was really apparently still a fucking trigger. Where I wasn't allowed to speak, my book was going to come out, and because I spoke at a 1.5 on Goodreads, it's still trash. Like, the first ratings are, and
but this thing going back to these things, it matters. Being able to say, for people who are compulsive writers, we speak because otherwise we don't exist. But you have the added part of the childhood. What were the rules around speaking as a kid?
Oh, I don't really know what the rules were. If you managed to piss an adult off in the right way, or the wrong adult, you could be put on silence restriction for a day, a month. There are people who spend a year on it or more just not allowed to speak unless you're answering a question from an adult. Sometimes they would put duct tape over our mouths just to kind of humiliate us. And I was always, I was that ADHD kid in the wrong environment. I would say I talked. I would also, yeah, I would not backing down feels like death to me. I can't do it.
I know. Sometimes I speak when I know I shouldn't. I mean, I think I make choices, but I wonder whether, given your experience in a cult, whether you are drawn to or avoid these documentaries that I've become obsessed with recently, like the one about the Nexium cult called The Vow, or whether you, or anything, or even multi-level marketing of leggings. I mean, are there things, do you watch those to see familiar stuff, or do you avoid, or neither?
I don't know that I even watch them to see familiar stuff. I don't see a whole lot of familiar stuff. There is. I mean, every cult's the fucking same, but they're also, my childhood doesn't even feel like mine anymore. It was because, yeah, these people aren't living in communes and they're not kids. So seeing the adults experience is completely foreign to me. So yeah, I just watch them for entertainment.
Mm-hmm. What do you say? Every cult is the same in some way. I think Tolstoy wrote that, but what is what do you mean by every cult is the same?
And it is. You've always got the charismatic leader, and if you're not drawn to charismatic leaders, we're watching it wondering who the fuck follows this douchebag. Because it's Keith. Are you serious?
Right. So you
Volleyball.
did watch it.
Yeah,
Keith Rainier, you fucking watched it. Oh my God.
It's just funny to me. I
know.
don't understand it. Yeah, it's the child's experience. I had that experience when I was in it, when I was a kid,
Right.
because the heavens and the moon. No, it is not. I had gone to school. My grandma said there were dinosaurs, so I knew Noah's Ark was bullshit. It's the same experience I had with it when I was a kid. It was like, are you really following this guy? Come on. He's in volleyball.
I'm so glad you mentioned your grandmother, because what I see in your part of your life when you were in and out of the cult, like how many years, what age did that span again? Because I know there was it in and then they took you out and then you were back. What age was it, from what to what?
We were out of the cult from when I was 7 to 9, or about to turn 7 to right after I turned 9, which are really important years in elementary school and around a grandma. Just
but then back in? And then back in when?
When I was 9.
To what age did you get out again?
15.
And what age? I forgot when you first. What age were you in before you were 7?
I was born in there, and then got out when I was
in
6.
Germany.
Yeah.
Okay, so when your grandmother, those 7 to 9, is she? If I'm remembering correctly, because I read the book when I got it right before it came out, when you sent it to me. Was she the one, or was it an aunt who introduced you to literature and dinosaurs and such?
A little of both. It was my grandma mostly. We lived with her both times when we got out. But yeah, when I was 6.5, November of 83, we moved in with my grandma, and went to the school down the street, but she would take us on archaeological digs because she never stopped going to school. Every time we saw her, she was getting a different degree. It was just fun for her. And she would take us to the college. Anytime she had classes, she would just bring us along if she was supposed to be babysitting.
Was she your mother's mom or your father's mom?
My mother's mom. So we went on archaeological digs, and she explained all of it to me. And I asked her about Noah's Ark, and she, to her credit, did not laugh, and explained the Bible as these campfire stories, which it is, that were passed down through generations and then written down. So when we went back into the cult, all I knew was my grandma was the smartest person alive, and all of these people were dumb as shit. But I couldn't express that. And so I was just trapped in this thing that I knew was dumb the entire time. She would send me books, and my mom would let us read them. She'd let us keep them in her room. So I
Wait,
was
so I'm
reading,
just trying to visual because I'm just trying to. So grandma was in Texas, right?
yeah,
Or no?
yeah. My grandma
So
was,
what? So your grandmother has you and maybe thinks this is good. You maybe get deprogrammed and you're young. What was the
yeah.
look on her face when you disappeared when you were 9, or did you leave in the middle of the night? And did you go abroad, or where did your mother take you at
Um,
age 9?
I don't know. I think we just lied. I'm pretty sure we just lied. Although I'm sure she knew the truth. She just kind of let us. What are you gonna do? You can't kidnap someone. So yeah, we went to Japan. When we rejoined, we went to Dallas for a minute, and then
Uh
to
huh.
Japan.
So back to your grandmother. Your grandmother gave you, and she would also mail you books wherever you were, so you
Yeah,
could have them. Or
yeah,
so that was your window
yeah.
out.
That was my window into the outside world, and it's just. I mean, a fourth grade education is apparently enough to counter a cult. So
You would think that, but look at the cult of Donald
you
Trump. I mean,
think,
that must be horrifying to watch that as well for you around us. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
I really thought, people who would join a cult, or I guess I hoped, were a minority. Um, Apparently, people just haven't found the right one if they haven't joined one yet. I I don't know. It was surreal to watch. It was absolutely surreal. It still is. It's surreal to watch people get into QAnon. It's surreal for people to go into. I had this like delusion, I guess, that people got to the left by thinking their way there or reading their way there. And I don't know that it's any more than tribalism. And you see it anytime someone, people on the left who will tweet about prisons and abolishing the death penalty and anything else, as soon as it's someone they don't like, they're making prison rape jokes and
yeah,
they're talking about locking them up for life. Um, I
no,
don't know.
well, I've thought about, I think for a long time, I think I've always thought about cults and the line between something like an organized religion and a cult, or the line between, I'm always interested in sort of the pathological or the culturally unacceptable versions of group behavior versus the ones that seem to be nourishing and good, or
Yeah.
where those lines are. And it's funny because I think the way you describe every cult kind of has this charismatic leader. I think some, not you, might think that the reason why people that when you join and participate in a cult, that you're surrendering your power to the cult leader. But I think instead people participate in cults because by being associated or accepted or praised by the leader, it gives them individual power in their own smaller networks. In other words,
Yeah.
people who were Trumpers, you look at all these guys who now, young white guys who now feel with their little red caps that they can, push around young women when they didn't get to used to do that or whatever. And I wonder, and you look at the cult that you were in where it gave adults power over children in a really, really dangerous, unlawful, sick way, but also power, a little world where the, little world to be in where they understood the rules. And even if, even if they never even fucking saw the charismatic leader, it made them feel maybe better than the people who weren't in the cult, the us, them. I don't know, because I just don't think people fully want to surrender their power. I think people who identify with a sadistic cult leader. Am I wrong on this, or I don't know
No,
what you saw?
I don't think you're wrong. I didn't meet many powerless people in the cult. Women, absolutely. That's another thing cults have in common is women and children always pay for it. But no, people derive power from it. It feels great. It feels great to be the one who knows the secret. That's why you believe in conspiracy theories. You're the only one
Right.
who know the truth. It feels great to be part of a group. You're stronger because all of y'all are wearing the same T-shirt, and you fuck with me, you fuck with all of my brothers. It feels,
Belonging for some people who like belonging, right?
yeah, you have a higher purpose. All of this isn't a waste. All of this isn't random. God's chosen you. The cult leaders
Did you
chose.
ever feel that way, or did you just want to be left alone to read? I mean, were there ever moments when you were out there selling the calendars or whatever the fuck you were doing that you felt good about what you were doing?
No, we would go into restaurants and asked for food and asked for them to donate a meal, or furniture stores, or
Like in
any,
Japan or
yeah,
something, or
yeah, a hotel. If we needed a place to stay, we would go to a hotel and we would show them these pictures of little family kids helping at an orphanage or singing a song in an orphanage. I never went to a fucking orphanage. We never saw a fucking orphanage. We met these Vietnamese refugees one time in this town, Himeji, south of Osaka. We'd gone down there and they rescued us from a fucking typhoon and let us stay at their house and fed us and cared for us. And we went back for Christmas and had a great time with them. They were amazing and they took care of us. We were the ones in need. And from then
amazing.
on, we put all their pictures in that little fucking book and showed people these Vietnamese refugees we'd helped. It was all a lie.
It's jaw dropping.
It was all a lie, and I knew it, and everyone around me bought into it, and it was. Sometimes I knew that my mom knew we were all full of shit. But I think he saw it as more than anything else as a survival mechanism. For the same reason women have always gotten into those kinds of relationships.
Which is?
What else are you going to do? It's the same reason you get a new stepdad. He's got to help with the bills.
Yep. So the public-facing side, you knew, in order to raise money to survive and to contribute to the group, the public-facing side we're a Christian group who's helping the poor. Like we're missionaries. Yeah. Was that the public-facing message?
Yeah.
And internally, though, when people originally, if I'm remembering way back, it's like this is something that started in the 70s or late 60s as kind of, let's get back to nature, sort of that kind of hippie movement, commune thing. When did it become, was it always religious at the start or free love at the start, or when did it?
It was always religious at the start. David Berg was very active in Teens for Christ in California, or his kids were, and he basically glommed onto that. He'd gotten kicked out of a few churches for random things. His mother was a tent evangelist. He was raised to be a tent evangelist. But yeah, he couldn't hold a fucking job. And then he saw basically an opportunity. All these, sad, lonely kids, perfect prey, hanging out on the beach. They're hippies in Huntington Beach, California. Got his kids involved who were teenagers at the time. They'd sing a few songs. They'd pass out coffee and day-old donuts. And that's how you end up in a cult. Yeah, it was,
and it's a place to live, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. You don't need. It's a place to live. It's a community. Food.
Place to stay. People are nice to you. Everyone loves you. Everyone accepts you. That's really
until they don't.
Yeah, that's really tempting for a teenager who's already kind of throwing away materialism. All the reasons the hippie movement lasts. So yeah, he preached peace. He preached against war. He used all the hippie rhetoric and threw in some Jesus. And this is your path to heaven and your way to be accepted. And we're a family here.
I'm not remembering. Did he end up dead or in jail?
Oh, he's fucking dead. Yeah, he was dying for a long time. We had every year for his birthday, we'd have to fast for a day and pray that he would survive another year. He was an alcoholic, but yeah, I've never met him. I've just heard all the stories from people who have. Yeah,
which is also kind of strange that people worshipped somebody they had never met. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not you.
I mean, we do. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how he had a hold over people. I still don't understand it. I would love to be able to explain any of it, but I don't. And I don't know that people believed in him so much as once you're in, when the day-to-day takes over, they keep you really busy. They change things constantly. You're working all the time. and this is your family, so you're not going to leave and abandon your team.
I want to leave the cult right now and talk about the cable guy, because that's how your writing your writing and you became known. Can you talk a little bit about that story, and like, did you workshop it, how it became a piece, and then the stuff that I'm forgetting now, but I think there's a movie option, stuff like that, maybe a lawsuit.
Yeah, I don't even know how that came about. It was a throwaway essay. I'd been trying to sell a memoir that hadn't worked. Nobody wanted it. And it was a terrible memoir that I didn't want to write. I just wrote the cult tell-all that I thought I had to. So I pulled it. Yeah, and I started talking about being a cable guy on Twitter, which is,
You mean you were actually tweeting about it before you wrote the piece?
Yeah, I did a thread and
wait. That's right. I think I read the thread. I'm trying to remember, because I remember I was like in the middle of the night and I couldn't stop reading what you wrote about. But maybe I read the piece. I can't remember. So you start tweeting about it and then you wrote it as an article on BuzzFeed?
Yeah, I was just going in between classes. And I was like, you guys want to hear some cable guy stories? So
in between what classes? You were stoned in between?
Government and creative writing were the two I was taking at the time. I'd given myself a few years to try to figure out the writing thing, and if not, I was going to have to get another job because I just wasn't going to be a fucking cable guy anymore. And yeah, the thread took off, and a friend of mine who works at the HuffPost asked if I wanted to write a piece, so I did.
Oh, HuffPost.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I really thought it was just a throwaway story. I think that's where I finally kind of figured out writing. Before that, I was just telling stories. There was no fucking point to them.
But I'm comparing, because you said, like, well, I wrote this memoir, like the cult story I thought I was supposed to write. And then you write this, you're just kind of stoned writing this experience, observations about being a cable guy, woman cable guy, obviously, tall lesbian woman cable guy, and all the shit that happens. It's just so amazing. But it blows up. What do you mean it blows up? And what do you mean that you realize what you were supposed to be doing? How did you know it blew up?
It blew up. I jumped to like 20-something thousand followers overnight. I couldn't keep my phone.
Oh my God.
Long enough. I had, that really fun thing that happens in movies where suddenly you have the answering machine that's full of every agent and editor and producer. But it was my Twitter DMs. Yeah,
that's so cool.
I think it got like something like 8 million views in the first month. It went viral to a new level. Yeah, that's when I figured it out. I thought it was a throwaway essay, so I just said what I wanted to say, and it turns out that's how you write.
Yeah, I think there's something. I think there's something about Twitter, and this is the part that makes me sad and grieves, that there was something about that space compressing things, even if you're doing a thread, being economic, being careful with your language, being direct, getting some immediate feedback, but writing fast, and maybe never editing, but writing fast and saying what you think without fretting too much and not being worried. I don't know. I think it made me a better writer, even though I'm supposed to be an academic. Maybe that's why I'm not doing my academic writing as much. But so you do this, and did you get your agent from your Twitter DM, or did you shop around, or what?
No, I just signed with the new one, so we still had that, and then it was get a proposal. I found my editor from a DM though. He said he was yeah, and I thought it was funny. But yeah, it kind of everything blew up from there. But yeah, the Twitter thing, and that was the danger of it. I used it a lot. I think we have a hard time letting go and like doing just straight business writing, and that's what it was for a lot of us, which is fine among your audience, and anytime it goes outside of that. But Yeah, it was great practice. It was when it was even shorter characters of exactly which words do you need to make this joke or to make this point. Um, the problem is we just got stuck there and didn't go back to writing on the other screen.
That is the problem. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, but it was a great source of procrastination and, meeting people, I think, too.
Yeah.
But it's probably better that passed. I mean, because it becomes, something like that can become really stale, too. I mean, I see now, like, I cringe when I see people on Twitter being, like, reductive or just repackaging some other tweet someone. It's like not the same place as that it used to be. Like, no one's going to recreate the, feral hogs or the grasshoppers that got out of the box. Remember that one?
The rice truck.
Oh my God, the rice truck, the guy and his wife that he ordered all that rice and wanted, right. I mean, that doesn't happen.
The guy was
but back to
acid when the Irish president came to visit. That was great.
I need to make a footnote to ask you about drug use in a second, but let me go back to the part you skipped, which is I swear that there was some talk about either the cable guy or leaving isn't the hardest thing being a movie. Are you just ignoring my comment on that?
I'm ignoring your comment on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So what life is like as a writer is you just can't talk about anything ever.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't talk about that ever or what it would be like if there were an option, even though I know it's like apparently like in December when Hollywood decides whether they're re-upping options and stuff like that. Anyway, okay, who's going to play you in the movie? I mean, if there were a movie, if there were ever a movie of your life, who would you want to play you? Or you're not even allowed to talk about that?
I'm going to pass.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this? If there's ever a movie, can I at least come to the premiere or something?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a date, so we could hook that up.
Okay, I think I have a scoop, but I'm just gonna let things slide. I'm gonna let things slide right now. So the drug use thing. This is an intervention. No, I'm kidding.
Jesus.
So, I mean, you're somebody who, marijuana is legal in the state I'm in, or what do we call it now? Cannabis, is legal in Massachusetts where I am. And I'm just going to assume that any, drug use that you do has been perfectly legal. But it's something that you talk about, more than what's her name? Susan, who wrote the, Orchid Thief, the New Yorker writer who was drunk and on Twitter that one night, the Orchid Thief, New Yorker writer, Susan Orleans. She wrote that whole night when she was drunk. And so there are people who do that. You're somebody who writes about or talks about doing acid or being high or what have you. And I wonder about, are you comfortable with how much you use drugs or why you do or?
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have peace with it. I like pot. It makes everything more fun.
Pot or gummies? Do you have a particular? Do you like to smoke or would you prefer?
I prefer smoking. I hate being surprised high, so I smoke.
Like 2 hours later, you're something like, oh man, I had that gummy and I didn't remember, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's the worst feeling. Yeah, I like knowing exactly how high I'm going to be. But yeah, I sometimes I probably smoke too much right now, and I should probably cut down, which I do occasionally. The good thing about me is if I put my bong away, I forget to smoke. So, and I'll go a few days. So I think I'm okay still.
Is this about, is it partially about untreated anxiety or is it more about the fun of the escape and of it?
It's a little bit of both. It depends on why I'm smoking, what I'm smoking. Yeah, it fixes a lot of the anxiety. I don't have the panic attacks that I used to. A lot of the drugs just didn't work for me. if there's a chance, if if suicidal ideation is listed on the side effects for a drug, that's the one I'm going to get. Which is, it's too scary for me.
So it's better. I mean, it's a shame that cannabis hasn't been. I mean, now I know it's being approved for medical uses, but all these years of not having scientific research done on it, it seems like it's really good for people. I mean, it might be, in other words, for people on chemo, it helps with. There's different things that they know. I mean, do you think it might be your anti-anxiety med, and that instead of thinking of it as I do too much, I do too little, thinking about regulating it a bit? Listen to me. I mean, I'm sorry. I know nothing. I'm not a doctor. I just worry sometimes if I see someone talking about using drugs a lot. Although I'm always on Twitter now saying I'm having martinis, and I usually have like one a month. And then I was just in Los Angeles with people, and so because they talk about drinking martinis, everyone offered me a martini, and I just had like a martini every night, and I had the worst stomach ache the whole time I was there because I'm not used to that much alcohol. So I need to tell people I don't drink anymore because they don't offer me drinks. Do people offer you drugs all the time since you talk about it?
It happens. It's one of the funner benefits to the job is people will randomly hand me drugs, which I appreciate a lot. I don't know. I'm just not really worried about it. It's weird if people post about drinking all the time. Well, that's not true. I've had people accuse me of being an alcoholic if I posted about whiskey once or twice, and I pull on the same bottle I bought over the summer, so I think I'm okay there. But I'm a lightweight, and I'm a lightweight with drugs too. But
what are the healthy habits that you have? Is it like walking Woody and feeding him cheese, or what's the thing you do for exercise?
None. If we label these healthy habits, I'll stop doing them. No, that's not true. My step count went up so much after I got the dog. It's great.
Wow. What are you? Because we
trying to apparently walking a dog for hours a day helps a lot.
I got lazy and stopped walking the dog, and my step count was like down to 3,000 steps a day. You're laughing, but that was ambitious. That's probably even like just doing the dishes. I have to actually walk the dog, or I'm really sedentary.
No, my dog died. Well, before the book came out, and I did 2,000, 3,000 steps all year.
Oh my God,
Woody. So yeah.
Well, you look really good. You look very healthy, and you look happy. Where are your glasses? When I saw you before, you don't have those on now. You don't need to see?
No, I had the surgery finally. My brother talked me into it. He's an
What surgery?
He's also my guinea pig. So he did it first, the LASIK.
Wow.
I'm not at 20.
I mean, you had serious Coke bottle you had like very thick glasses before.
Yeah, they were bad, and I hated them. And if you start wearing glasses as a kid, you're never going to think they're that cool. You're always aware of how thick yours are compared to everyone else's. You're always Yeah. So
mine aren't like that.
No, yours are fine. I had the Coke bottles, and I was never happy with it. So I just wanted to get it. I told him as long as I'm not wearing Coke bottles anymore, I don't even fucking care about getting to 2020. Which I didn't. I need to go get my eyes checked and get a pair of glasses, but I can see. It's nice.
So what's your, before we wrap things up, I've got two questions. When is your supposed book due date? I'm just trying to see if our books are coming out at the same time.
I don't know.
When is your manuscript? Oh, you don't know? You didn't put that in the contract?
I
even signed the contract, because if you're just making the announcement.
I haven't signed it yet. We're still there. That's
I have no idea. And what didn't I ask you that I should have asked you about what's going on with you?
Nothing. I think I don't know. Oh, did I have something specific to say?
No. I'm just wondering if there's something that you wish I had asked you. Are you single? Do people need to know that?
Yeah. It happened again.
Uh-oh, I didn't know you were dating somebody.
I don't know. I think red flags are pretty is the problem. And then it ends exactly how that's going to end. When you're somebody loves a good red flag. It was fun. But now it's,
well, what's your type, just so we know?
Yeah, someone asked me that at a book event with my dad in the audience, and that was the one time the book event got like really dirty, and people kept commenting on the sex part of the book and everything else. I'm like, my dad.
Don't worry, he doesn't listen to the podcast. It's fine.
I'd send him a redacted copy of the book just to avoid that. I don't know that I have a type. I'm sure I do. If
red flag type is what you have.
Yeah. And red flags, they're just real pretty.
Well, if I see anyone who looks like trouble, I'll send them your way.
Thanks. If it looks like she's going to hurt me deeply, that's what I like.
So healthy, so good. Well, it's great. It's great speaking with you. I'm really looking forward to whatever secret news this is that you're not allowed to talk about some kind of movie that you're not supposed to mention.
The thing is, don't get excited about these things either, because like
I know nothing ever. It's just these option-y things. I get it.
Yeah. Things don't exist until they exist. It's fine.
Oh, I know. I want to ask you another thing. Why are you in Massachusetts visiting family instead of Texas? Is it because of Christmas or something? Or why aren't you? Don't you live in Austin?
Yeah, I live in Austin. No, I just really like my brother, and I like doing Christmas here. And our dogs get along, and so it's a great place.
And your crazy sister-in-law, who's like a perfectionist. And what is right? I've read about that.
She's the best.
She's lovely. She's the best. She's right there in the room. Hi, sister-in-law. You're amazing.
She's so good. No, she already scared the shit out of Woody this morning with the vacuum. And then she started shit talking while she was vacuuming. She's like, oh, you don't even know what a fucking vacuum is, do you, little buddy? You never fucking seen one of these.
Well, have a great holiday with few panic attacks. And I want everyone who's listening to read Leaving Isn't the Hardest Thing. I don't exaggerate when I say it's one of the best books I have ever read. Absolutely. And it's in the category for those folks who read memoirs. You're right there with Mary Carr, The Liars Club. You know this is true. I even tagged you and her in a tweet just so you on her radar. I mean, the fact that that you had Roxane Gay blurb your book. I mean, I'm not going to read to you because it will make your head swell, all the blurbs, but I imagine that you've framed some of these because these are incredible people who admire your work. Did John Krakauer blurb you too?
No, he wrote something on an Instagram post about it, and and
then you stole it for your Amazon page anyway, right?
I made my publisher.
Well, anyway,
my brother has a little file full of them. He keeps them all. So,
well, please come visit me when you're traveling about with Woody, and we can do a play date with Ponzu. I know Ponzu would enjoy that a lot.
That would be awesome.
Okay, well, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, there are many things that I really wanted to ask Lauren and pin her down on, some of which I backed off of because I could tell she wasn't going to give me an answer. That being what the heck is happening on any kind of movie adaptation of her book. But I guess we'll have to wait on that. And the other thing that I forgot to mention and ask about is her relationship with the actor Cate Blanchett. As you may know, Cate read part of Leaving Isn't the Hardest Thing for the Audible. And I had seen photos of the two of them together on Twitter. She sounds like a wonderful person and a great supporter. I also know that Cate did a foreword for the French edition of Leaving Isn't the Hardest Thing. Again, want to know more about that. I can't recommend this book enough. Her work is relatable, even if the experiences she faces and the people she encounters are unknown to us. I literally could not put this book down, and I so much look forward to her next one. Thanks so much. And please follow Booked Up with Jen Taub on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And email us at bookedup@politicon.com. If you prefer, send us a letter at bookedup, P.O. Box 147, Northampton, Massachusetts 01061.